Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on my jade forest. This forest is a story of success and failure. I last pruned this forest in 2020, 4 years ago, and everything was going well. All the trees were growing in after their pruning, and then they started dying off, and all of the trees died off except for the main tree in the forest. So it's time to start rebuilding this forest from the tree that survived, the largest tree. Here is a look at the forest today. So the only tree that survived was the main tree here, and all these other trees are the result of leaves falling off the main tree, rooting, and growing into trees. I do have another type of jade out the back here that I'll have to dig up and put in its own pot. So today I'm going to be pruning the main tree, and then I'll plant the cuttings that I get off of the pruning to recreate the forest. And it was a nice looking forest. Unfortunately, all the surrounding trees didn't survive that hard pruning. They started leafing out, but then things just went downhill. I guess maybe conditions weren't right. Maybe it was too humid in the plant room and I got root rot. I'm not sure, but at least the main tree survived. Now this tree is a hybrid, so it's kind of a mix between a golem style jade and the one with the oval shaped leaves, and you get a variety of leaf shapes on it. Like you can see, this leaf is sort of in between the cylindrical type leaf and the round leaf, and it does that all over the tree. You get a variety of different leaves. So it's not one of my favorite species of tree, but you know, I'll try and make the best forest I can out of it. I'm going to begin the work today by removing this jade from the back here. So I will get my root rake and I'll try and extract it, roots intact, from the soil. So these trees have been chilling in the basement at around 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And jades seem to really like having a cool period in the winter. I've been keeping all my jades in the basement, and they seem to really like having that cool spell over the winter. And they don't seem to stop growing in the cool temperatures. They seem to just keep growing like it's warm outside or inside. So this one has quite a root base on it. I can see the stumps in here from the jades that died off. And again, I'm not sure why they died. I'm guessing it was either too much humidity and it caused them to rot, or not enough water, too much water, I don't know. Jades are kind of hard to read sometimes. So there it is, this tree's out with its root base intact. And it's kind of long and snake-like, so I'm going to cut it off and plant it as a smaller tree. So I'll cut it off here. And there's another one growing up beside it here that I think is separate, but maybe not. So I'll cut that one off short too. So there's a little stump I can plant. Not that I need any more jades, but you know, might as well get it on the go. So I'll put those aside and try and get some of these dead stumps out of here. Making sure none of these leaves are in the soil because they'll root and start growing into trees. Okay, well, that's a start. At least they're all the same species in the planting now. I see a weed here I want to pull out. Try and get it out by the roots. There. You can see here a leaf has dropped off and it's starting to grow. So this one, it's a bit close to the main tree, so I may have to rearrange all the trees in this planting. I'm going to begin by pruning up the main tree, and then I'll see what cuttings I have, and then I can arrange the cuttings back into a forest. I really like jade forests. I think they give you a very unique feel. I think they can look really, really good. So you can see the last time I pruned this, there's a big scar here. I took off a branch. I pruned this one back to a stump, and it's grown 3 new branches from that area. Yeah, it had a lot of fairly large pruning cuts on it. So I do want to keep this, you know, fairly small. I don't want these to grow into giant jades. So my first cut will be to the apex up here. So you can see I used to have a leaf coming out the front here, so I can prune just above there. And that should grow, continue to grow in a nice direction. And I'm leaving a few leaves on just to help the tree out. I'll prune this one back, just taking the tip off. The branch out the back, I'll prune it back to here. And I think that's got this main trunk line that's coming forward pruned up. So behind that I have another trunk line, and you can see I pruned it here and it's divided into 2, and the one is coming forward and growing underneath the apex here, so I'm going to take that one off totally. So here I go, like that. That gives a little more room for the crown, and this one is more of a branch or a trunk line going off to the right hand side. Now down here I've got this secondary trunk, and then I've got one growing straight up here. I think that one can come off, so at the present moment it divides from 1 to 3, so I'll reduce that back to 2 like that. And then I'll prune these ones back short also. There's no real branching on this one yet, so I'll prune it off here. Again, keeping a few leaves on it. And the one out the back, I've got some leaves facing out the back here, so I'll prune it just above there, like that. There's a few new shoots coming out the back, or branches, and they're all looking good. Maybe except for this one, which is growing in between these 2 trunk lines, so I'll remove that. That. And then there's one growing right in between here that I've got to get rid of. Like that. And there's one out front here too. Get that leaf off, and the start of a branch there. And this one could come off. It's growing from the base of this existing trunk line. Like that. I think that's got it cleaned up fairly well. I'm not sure about this branch. You can see I would have a division of 1 trunk line into 3 here, so I better take this one off. Even though it's kind of a cool branch, but I think it'll cause swelling in the future. And then out front, well, maybe this one that's coming straight out the front should come off. Don't want an eye poker branch, so that can come off. This one's fine if I relocate this tree. They're kind of close together. So that will have to be done, I think. So next I'm coming to this trunk line up the back here. And again, it divides from 1 to 2 here, which is nice. And then I want it to further divide, so I think I'll come in right here and prune the top off. Like that. And then the other trunk line, I will prune it back to, let's try to here for now. And maybe it'll have to come shorter. And then there's another part of it that comes straight up here. And I don't think I want that. I think I want it growing out the back, giving that apex more room. So that one's going to come off like that. There's another shoot coming straight out the front here I'm going to remove. Like that, just cleaning that up. And I think that has the main tree pruned up. I think maybe I want to go a little shorter here. Do I? I have a leaf out the back, which is nice. I will go shorter. And I'm hoping this develops into a branch, this leaf out the back here. I get a branch growing from the base of it. And then I can maybe prune it back further in the future. And I could possibly prune this one back further too, and I think I will. It's just a little long. This little branch here I could also prune. Just taking the tip off. Yeah, I will. Like that, just leaving a few leaves on the tree, on that branch. This dead leaf here. Yeah, so I think that's got the main tree pruned up quite nicely. Okay, so that's what cuttings I have. They're not real strong woody cuttings, but you know, some of them are okay for planting. So I think I need to relocate this tree. It's too close to this one and it's kind of in line with it. I think it would look better in a different location, so I'm going to dig that one up. So the root base on it isn't really strong. They never are on jades. They always have a fairly meager root system. I think that's why they're so susceptible to rotting. Yeah, you can see it's a very meager root system, and the tree is, you know, fairly large. So I'm going to prune the tree back to here, taking some of the weight off the top, and then that'll be planted in a new location. The other two trees in the forest, they're a little bit in line, but not exactly. And I wouldn't say they're ideal locations. This one's set back from the main tree a bit, which is nice. So if I were to relocate one, it would be this one. And I think I better do that. Try and get it in a better position. So this one will get dug up also. So there's the root system on that one. It's, again, fairly meager. But it has roots, which is good. Okay, so now we have sort of a blank canvas of two trees, like that. And now I've got to arrange those two existing trees I dug up and the cuttings to make, kind of fill out the back of the forest, creating some depth. So these are my largest trees, so I want them sort of towards the front. My tallest tree may be here, and this one over here. And then I can put cuttings in around the back. So I'll dig a hole and get this tree planted. So I think, you know, not exactly between these two trees, but offset a bit will look quite nice. So I'll make a hole there for it, where I can plant it. Arrange my roots. Take out some of the dead roots here. And then fill it in. And it'll take a while for this tree to grow and mature a bit. They're just very young. But it'll get there. So there's the one tree planted in between these two, but offset a bit. And then my other one, I'll want it more towards the edge here,
So I don't want it in line with that other back one, so maybe slightly forward. So I think right about here will look good. So I'll dig a hole for that. Here's the stump of one of the dead ones in here. Kind of funny, I picked the exact location where there was a tree. There's the root base on it. It was fairly major. Yeah. Yeah, so it was too bad that died, but you can't win them all, you know. So I'll plant this tree in here. I'm just happy, you know, the main tree survived. That the forest wasn't a total loss. And I'll rebuild it. Better, stronger, faster. So there's that tree planted now in the forest. Again, you know, sort of random spacing. So it doesn't look in line with any of the other ones. So next, I think I need some cuttings in the background here to kind of fill in the space behind the main tree here. So I'll pick my best cuttings. They're not really woody or anything, but you know, they'll grow. So here's one, and I'll just peel off all the lower leaves off of it. Like that, and then I can plant it. And this is sort of my larger cutting, so I think kind of in between these two branches, maybe. Yeah, maybe somewhere right about here. So I'll make a hole for it and plant it as a cutting. Maybe that hole needs to be a bit deeper. There. Fill it in. Maybe I better take a bit more weight off the top. It's a little top heavy still. Okay, so that's planted back there. I don't know if that's a good location. I think I should have moved it over a bit more. We'll relocate it more like here. Yeah, that's a little better of a location. And then I need a little cutting over here. So again, I'll peel off all the lower leaves, and maybe I'll go a little further this time, making it a little less top heavy. Like that. And then I'll put this in. I don't want them in line, so I think back further or more. I think up closer. I think somewhere in about here. There's a helicopter flying overhead. There it goes, the helicopter. Okay, back to the planting. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think that's a fairly good location for it. And then I've got some other cuttings here. This is sort of my next woodiest one. I could put it in the back corner here. So I'll peel all the leaves off. falling off quite easily. And then I'll put it in back here. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks fine. I think I need something in here now. So I'll get another cutting. All my cuttings are very green. Well, we'll try it. If they don't survive, well, I'll get more cuttings off the main tree eventually, and I can just keep planting until I get something that does survive. They should have a good chance of survival. So I was thinking somewhere here. So you can definitely miss these cuttings. I just wouldn't give it a deep watering. Not until you see some new growth forming on them. When you see some new growth, that usually indicates the trees have rooted, and then you can start your heavy watering, let it totally dry out cycle, heavy watering again, let it totally dry out. And when I heavily water these jades, I make sure it's warm and sunny. So I don't heavily water them and then have them sit in the dark and cold, and because you'll just get rot. So when you do the heavy watering on them, make sure it's a nice sunny day or they're under a good plant light and that they can use that water. If it's too dark and cold, the water will just sit in the soil. It'll stay wet for days or even weeks, and you'll get rotting happening. So yeah, it's important, you know, not only when you water, but the conditions that you're watering it in. Okay, so that is the jade forest. Let's take a look at it. Here is everything I took off today, all my scraps, and here's the jade forest. So yeah, it's the start of another forest. I think at least that main tree survived, and then hopefully we'll get some good growth from all those cuttings and eventually rebuild it as a nice looking forest. I knew something was missing from the forest, so I added the zebras in just for fun. Hopefully my forest has been resurrected from the one single surviving tree. Time will tell. I'll keep you updated on its progress. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.